under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, reading of the mission statement. We, the Franklin Regional School community, strive for excellence, learning, achievement, and citizenship in all we do. And we were in executive session from 5:30 to 6:05 for personnel and legal. Okay, Ms. Wolf, roll call.
Mr. Kozlowski?
Here.
Mr. Nevin?
Here.
Mr. Scheinert?
Here.
Mr. Mitterator?
Here.
Mrs. Tower?
Here.
Mr. Weinman?
Here.
Mrs. Willeen?
Here.
Mr. Gant? Absent. Mr. Yingling?
Here. Okay, we'll go right into public comments. We've got a number of public comments tonight. First one's up, Richard Lucas. You got your 4 minutes? You've got 4 minutes.
Thank you. My name is Dr. Richard Lucas. I live at 5516 Parkview Court, Murraysville, Pennsylvania. I'm a radiologist at a local health system. My daughter Liza will be starting kindergarten this year. My 5-year-old is fine with wearing a mask. She did it all last year at preschool without difficulty or complaint, as did all of her classmates. I asked her, why do we wear masks? And she said, Daddy, so I don't get sick with coronavirus, and so I don't get my friends sick. My 5, soon to be 6-year-old gets it. We need to set the example and teach our children to be compassionate and to be selfless. Don't just wear a mask for yourself, wear it for others. My daughter did not develop any breathing problems or brain damage from high carbon dioxide levels. She doesn't have any anxiety problems or depression from wearing a mask. Let's be honest, kids are adaptable and resilient. They don't have a problem wearing a mask. It's the parents that have the problem. To the parents that don't want their kids to wear a mask, I know you say that very few kids get really sick or die, or that it's just the flu. It is true that only 2% or less of kids get really sick and need hospitalized or put on a ventilator. But that still means 2 out of every 100 kids are going to get really sick. You're going to feel really terrible if it's your kid. Imagine your kid choking on their own secretions, their chest heaving up and down. They're gasping for air until they can't anymore. Then a code team comes to call to jam a tube down their throat to help them breathe. If you've never seen it before, and I have, I suggest you YouTube a few videos and watch it. The vast majority of kids will recover, that's true, but new data shows that 10 to 20%, 1 or 2 out of every 10 kids, could have long-term health problems. So pick 10 people out of this room, and then pick another 2, and that's how many of your kids are going to have long-term health problems. These symptoms could last months, years, or the rest of their lives. Now imagine your kid sitting on the sidelines at a soccer game, watching. They're unable to participate because they can't run anymore because they can't even breathe. You say that I'm fear-mongering and I'm teaching my children to live in fear. I'm teaching her to be cautious. I'm teaching her to be compassionate and selfless and not afraid. My daughter is not afraid, and I'm not either. You may be willing to play Russian roulette with your child's life, but I'm not going to play Russian roulette with mine. Thank you.
Thank you, Richard. Lauren Lucas.
Hi, I'm Dr. Lauren Lucas, PharmD. I live at 5516 Parkview Court in Murraysville. I've been a resident of Murraysville for 41 years and a proud FR graduate. I've always had pride in our school district and received a phenomenal education all those years ago. Thus, it was a no-brainer that my husband and I built our house in the community that I loved growing up in. I wanted my child to have the same great experiences that I had during my time at Franklin Regional. But I have to say, I'm extremely disappointed at the current board's decision to make masking in the schools optional. I have a 5-year-old who is extremely excited to start kindergarten. I would like to be as excited as she is, as she's embarking upon a new journey. However, my excitement has been displaced with fear, worry, and anger. How can a school board and district dismiss the recommendations being made by the CDC and the American Academy of Pediatrics that all individuals, students, teachers, visitors, and staff over the age of 2 wear masks while indoors, regardless of vaccination status. Apparently, the board feels it knows better than that of medical experts, with the suggestion of optional mask wearing at a parent's discretion. The board claims it has no authority to enact a universal masking policy, which is false. You're just merely passing the buck, placing blame on the state or federal government. Universal masking is a very simple way to decrease the transmission of COVID-19. And now we're dealing with the Delta variant, which is very contagious and can be spread as easily as chickenpox once was. I want my child to have in-person school as much as the next parent, but we cannot compromise the safety of our youngest students for whom are unable to be vaccinated. We must do everything in our ability to protect our kids so they can remain in school learning and not at home sick or in quarantine. My 5-year-old understands the importance of wearing masks and how it not only protects her, but others as well. And it's not fair to us parents that have been doing everything necessary to keep our children safe to worry we're putting them in harm's way by having them interact with other unmasked individuals during the course of a school day. My child is just as entitled to a safe education in school as the next child. Thus, masking needs to be done by all, not just some. So I implore the school board to change this optional masking decision. Thank you.
Thank you. Ross Eaton.
Good evening. I'm Ross Eaton. I live at 4002 Murray Highland Circle. I have 2 children in the district, and I'm here tonight to once again urge you to reconsider your masking policy and institute universal masking in all Franklin Regional schools. I respect your time, so I won't repeat the varied arguments I've already made in public comments and in letters to the board. Instead, I want to present new information in response to comments made after I spoke last week, as well as the ever-changing pandemic situation. At your August 2nd meeting, board members noted that we are in a fluid situation and that the board will consider changes to the health and safety plan based upon evolving conditions. This flexibility is commendable and necessary, as indeed conditions have evolved and can no longer be ignored. This is an image showing the level of community spread by county in Pennsylvania on July 22nd, just after the optional masking policy was announced to the community. Lots of low spread in blue and moderate spread in yellow. Overall, this might be a manageable situation. By the time of your August 2nd meeting, the level of community spread looked like this. No low spread counties were left in our area. Westmoreland and Allegheny counties were up to substantial spread in orange, meaning that the CDC was already recommending that all people wear masks when indoors with others, regardless of their vaccination status. Here's the situation from 2 days ago. Westmoreland County is now seeing the highest possible level of community transmission in red, as is every county around us, thereby increasing the danger of catching COVID with every single unmasked interaction you have, especially if they're prolonged and indoors, as is the case in the classroom. Now, I am terribly colorblind, but even someone as colorblind as me can look at these images and tell that the situation is not getting better. The situation is not even staying steady. It is getting worse rapidly, and transmission levels are not the only relevant metric escalating at an alarming rate. The number of children hospitalized with COVID has reached an all-time high. The number of pediatric COVID cases rose from a low of around 8,400 in June to more than 93,800 in the first week of August, more than a 10-time increase. And since schools have reopened, thousands of students have already had to quarantine and disrupt their education due to exposure. The Delta variant is assaulting our children in a way that COVID didn't before. If these aren't the evolving conditions that require a rethinking of your policy, what will be? Thus far, the board has not offered medical justification via credible scientific literature to back up their optional masking policy. Instead, the board has offered the legal opinion that it is questionable that this board would have the authority to mandate the wearing of masks. However, dozens of other districts in our region are mandating universal masking, which demonstrates that at the very least there is a good legal argument for districts having this power. In fact, your solicitor's law firm represents other districts that are making the choice to require masks. So, clearly, there are multiple legal interpretations here, and it is far from certain that you lack the authority to institute universal masking. Thus, I am not asking you to break the law or overstep your powers. I am asking you to make the responsible decision to protect the students in your care and our community as a whole. This board can do the responsible thing and institute universal masking. In the absence of legal certainty and in the face of rapidly worsening conditions, shouldn't you make the choice that is recommended by the overwhelming majority of medical experts, the CDC, the Department of Health, and the Department of Education? Franklin Regional strives to be a leading district in our region and prides itself on providing a cutting-edge, exceptional education for its students. If Franklin Regional maintains its optional masking policy in the face of increasingly dangerous conditions, our district risks not only outbreaks, quarantines, and extreme disruptions to educational continuity, but also a severe hit to its exceptional reputation. I'm asking you to embody Franklin Regional's tradition of excellence and leadership and join the ever-growing number of districts that are heeding expert advice and protecting their students and communities via universal masking in their schools. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Thank you. Anna Marie Grand.
I'm Anna Marie Grand from 582 Monticello Drive in Delmont. The topic of masks in schools inevitably brings up conversations about people's right to make choices. In fact, it was Mr. Moderator who said during our August 2nd meeting, people should have the right to choose. Thank God we still live in America. As an American, I place incredible value on our freedoms and rights that we are entitled to in this country. I value our right to make choices right up until those choices affect the health and safety of others. At that point, that right to choose goes out the window, which is evident in laws that we see on many issues. For example, you have the right to choose to smoke cigarettes. You do not have a right to smoke a cigarette in a restaurant where your choice to smoke would affect other people's health. You have a right to choose to drink alcohol. You do not, however, have a right to choose to drink alcohol behind the wheel of a car. And right now, you have a right to choose not to wear a mask. You should not, however, have the right to be unmasked in a situation where your choice puts other people's health at risk. This is no longer about individual choice. The choice to send a child to school unmasked has the potential to affect every child in that school. It affects not only their health, but also their education when they will have to stay home because transmission rates get too high. Last Tuesday, I sent the school a relatively long list of questions relating to contact tracing procedures, quarantine requirements, COVID testing policies, and other mitigation measures which we've heard claims of. Dr. Pinos called me that afternoon and stated that an email would be sent to parents later in the week with more information on these topics. Well, here we are, after the first day of school, and I have yet to see an email or an answer to any of those questions. The lack of communication from this district is concerning and infuriating when you expect us to trust you with the safety of our kids. I have never been so disappointed in this district, and as a Franklin Regional graduate, I hate saying that. I moved here because I specifically wanted my children to attend this school, but the choice by this board and this administration to knowingly and willingly defy all guidance has made me wonder why we want to be here. No matter how you spin it, you are knowingly and willingly putting children at unnecessary risk. I get that a lot of people are not concerned about COVID because they believe their kids are healthy and will be largely unaffected by this virus. Believe me when I say I truly hope they are correct. I get that a lot of people who have kids that have had COVID have recovered quickly and without issue, so they believe our fears are irrational. To those people, all I can say is you are incredibly blessed, and I hope you realize that, because not every family has had that extremely fortunate outcome. I know parents are pushing for whatever they think is in the best interest of their children individually, but this board has an obligation to make the decision in the best interest of these students as a whole. This student body includes kids who are immunocompromised, have asthma, or are otherwise at higher risk for severe cases of COVID. Regardless of the words I've heard you say each week, your actions show these at-risk kids that their health doesn't matter to you.
Thank you. Vince?
Good evening. My name is Vince Azalina, and I reside at 2790 Walker Court and Export. Thank you for the opportunity to speak tonight. I'm here on behalf of my children, who are ages 10 and 12 and in 5th and 7th grade, respectively. I actually came this evening because when the meeting came up on the calendar, I assumed that this was a meeting to discuss masks and mask policy. Looks like I was right. A hot topic issue, which is one of the reasons why I'm here. I'm not here to argue the efficacy of masks or lack thereof, because for every article about their effectiveness is another article showing why they are ineffective. I'm simply here actually to say to the board, thank you. Thank you for keeping the option of wearing a mask up to each individual family. In doing this, you have shown that you're truly advocating for all children, as well as advocating for their individual rights as citizens. To me, if you choose to have your child wear a mask, that's fine. And if you choose not to, that's also fine. It seems we've lost the ability to be empathetic towards one another and simply cast judgment because we only align with one particular side of an issue. That said, to me, fear has a cost. Maintaining a prolonged state of fear is unhealthy for our kids, just as it's unhealthy for us adults. It's simply not possible to say that masking, quarantine, social distancing is necessary for safety and not to incur adverse consequences, because the message that it sends is existing normal in this world is too dangerous. As adults, we should take a moment and reflect on that. Messaging matters. What kind of message do we want to send to our kids? So say what you want, but for me, it's not just a mask. We have no idea about the psychological development issues masking will cause to our children. We have no idea about the effects of the inability to see facial expressions that masking has on kids, as it prohibits expression, which is one of the basic principles of being a human being, and one of the most fun parts of childhood, adolescence, and figuring out who we are, something all of us can recall during our upbringing in this room. So again, thank you, school board, for taking into account mental health in your decision making. Thank you, school board, for taking developmental health into your decision making. Again, while I differ in position on whether or not to wear a mask, I respect the people who decide to wear one. I ask that will those on the other side respect mine and my children for not. We are all doing what we feel is in the best for the health and well-being of our children. In closing, I'm actually going to read an excerpt from my daughter's diary. And before anyone thinks I'm invading her privacy, she offered to share this with you because she knows I'm advocating for her and many of her friends at Franklin Regional. We found this recently during a room cleaning, and she shared some of her stories actually with mom and dad. This is from January of this past school year. We were quarantined as a family due to a COVID exposure in December after wearing masks, following all of the guidelines last year. Dear Diary, I'm sorry. I should really take more time to write. I've been in online school for a month now. I can't wait to see my teacher tomorrow in person. I just wish we didn't have to wear masks so I could really see my teacher and really see my friends. I'll try to write more tomorrow. Love, Jovi. This is a fourth grade student, or was a fourth grade student last year. This was in January, with many months of school left. This is my daughter. So for me, the mask is where it all ends. I will refuse to cover my child's face any longer, or ever again for that matter. But thankfully, we don't have to worry about that, because we have a school board that takes all health into their decision making, and for that, thanks again. Thank you for supporting me, my children, and having the right to choose optional masking for my family.
Thank you, Vince. I think I'm pronouncing Sunic. Okay.
Good evening. My name is Sunil Ramchandran. I'm here with my wife, Vicky. We live on 4062 Sign and Farm Drive in Export. We have a daughter in 11th grade this year and a son in 9th grade this year. As the prior gentleman just said, I do want to thank the board for making masks optional. I think that's an outstanding decision. I know I speak for many people in this room where I think you could go a step further, and I think you could make masks not be used at all and not even an option, so that we could finally move past this phase in all of our lives. As extreme as that may sound, we're in a good position now, so again, thank you. The main reason I came today, though, is because I kept hearing something about having, and I'm going to use the word vaccine, not because of a vaccine, but just so a commonality, everybody is on the same page of what we're talking about, something about some kind of vaccination stations in the school. And I don't know if that's really being considered or if that's a topic for tonight, but in case it is, I want to lay out a couple of points. This experimental vaccine, whatever shot, whatever we want to call it, any of the different brands that are out there, Franklin Regional doesn't really need to get involved in this, doesn't need the liability from it. Anybody who wants a vaccine can easily go get it, and it doesn't have to be in the school. And because there's a lot of camps of thought about the safety of these things and how effective they are, why be involved in it if you don't have to be involved in it? It's something we should stay away from. However, I don't want, and my wife doesn't want, anybody in the school district, whether it be a teacher, a nurse, an administrator, anybody, we don't want anybody talking to our kids about a vaccine. We don't want them suggesting they should take a vaccine. We don't want them encouraging a vaccine. We don't want any discussion of it because that's our business, and the health of a minor is our responsibility, albeit when they're in your facility, it's a shared responsibility. But we don't want anybody in the school district talking to our kids about getting a vaccine. I don't want any third-party pressure from anybody for my kid to have to get a vaccine. I don't want my kid to come home and think like, hey, I'm seeing a lot of pressure, I'm seeing signs to get a vaccine, or hey, get vaccinated. I don't think that, especially at this time, we're not talking about chicken pox, smallpox, we're talking about something that's so new. We don't really need that here, and I think it behooves us not to get involved in that. Now, I've heard some stories, I don't know if it's true, but in some other places around the nation, I've heard some stories about kids coming home from school and having been gotten vaccinated at school without the parents' consent. I think that's shocking if it happened. And I'm not saying it did happen, but what I am saying is that if it ever did happen, that would be horrible. That would really be horrible. And I don't think anybody needs to go there because we do have free choice. If you want to get your kid vaccinated, you can do that. School doesn't have to take a role in that. And finally, in closing, I would just say that everybody has a chance to talk about how they feel. Last meeting, some neighbors of mine who were doctors were speaking with their masks on, and I appreciate both of them. But if you go to their Facebook page, there's nobody wearing a mask ever. Hugging, dancing, kids all around, big parties, no masks. So why are we putting that back into the school? So I just think that we have a chance to do what's right. I think that you're all doing what's right, and we greatly appreciate that. I don't want to see any kind of vaccine station in the school. I don't think it's necessary, and I think it's something we should stay away from. Thank you.
Thank you. Dominic Ponko.
Hi, guys. Thank you. I'm Dominique Ponko. I live at 4208 Castlewood Court. I have children in 3rd, 5th, and 7th grade. I had a whole list of things I was going to read, everything printed out, and I think we're just tired. We're just tired, and we want to say. So I have some bullet points I want to go over. Right here, I just went to Walmart, and I got some masks. And on the back, it says that it does not eliminate risk of infection or disease. And then also, another box that we had says it does not prevent COVID. So right here, I can pass it around to you. It does not say that it will help prevent COVID. Also, I was wondering if I have permission. We had a doctor last time here who didn't even live in the municipality, and he was able to speak, and he also was saying that masks are like T-shirts. So may I have permission to give a demonstration of how efficient the masks are? What I'm going to do here, I went to the PA vape store, and I got this thing, and all it is vegetable glycerin, propane, which is like propylene, which is like smoke, and then flavoring. That's it. There's nothing, no nicotine or anything in here. And I want to show you the two things of how efficient these masks are. Do I have permission to do that? There's nothing in it.
Go ahead.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate that. First, I'm going to show you a medical mask that you're only supposed to wear once, right? I'm sure all of us have worn our masks more than once, so I'll try my best. When I do this, I'm only taking a mouthful. I'm not inhaling it into the lungs. So think of how much space the lungs take up in a child. And when they breathe, they're breathing out of both. So right now, I'm just taking it right into my mouth. Watch. Right? So that is a medical mask. This was my daughter's mask last year. So as our children are sitting in school, there you have it. So they're protecting themselves against what? I don't know. And if you know that the aerosol of a COVID virus is smaller than the smoke. And I just want to say to the people that are fearful for their children, keep them home or keep a mask on them, one or the other. Do not live in fear and keep our children in fear. That's all I want to say. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dominique. Stacy?
Hello, my name is Stacey Cranbucker, and I'm actually on 6200 Eagles Lane in Murraysville. I just want to say thank you. Thank you for keeping the mask optional. Again, like Dominique said, I had stuff here written down too, but quite frankly, sitting here, I know I speak for many. I'm exhausted. I mean, this has been going on for a year and a half now. I have a 5-year-old coming into kindergarten. Super excited to be coming in. We did the meet and greet last week, and he is nonstop. He is counting down the days until he starts. Me, not so much. But we go into the school tomorrow for the staggered day. Let me just say this. Thank you for keeping the mask optional. Because as I mentioned the last board meeting, every child is different. I know some have spoken here tonight, and they want masks on their children, and that's fine. I am all for that. But also, my child who is 5, he also has anxiety, and I will never, ever put a paper covering on my child's face. He's 5 years old. It's child abuse, basically. My 3-year-old and my 5-year-old went to preschool last year. I know someone had mentioned before that their child wore a mask the entire time in preschool. The preschool we went to, they gave grace. Just like Franklin Regional is doing, they're giving grace and they're giving these children's options. My children never, ever wore a mask. Some may call that selfish. I call it respect. We teach our children to have respect for their own bodies. We teach them to respect others no matter what they choose. When I asked my 5-year-old, the last board meeting I had mentioned this, why do you believe people wear masks in children and adults? His response to me was to keep quiet. He doesn't know about a virus. We chose not to tell him about this big, bad, scary virus. He's 5. We're protecting his mind because we know that the mind will affect these children later on in their future. So many of us sitting in this room are holding on to things that happened in our childhood, and it carries on into our adult world. That's why we're protecting them, and that's why I will never, ever put a mask on my child. So I thank you so much from the bottom of my heart and many of others in here of keeping this option open to whatever you feel is the best for your family. One thing I am asking is when we went to the meet and greet last week in the primary school, it's a beautiful school. One thing that my husband and I noticed was signs that were laminated on the walls with the panther wearing a mask, saying, wear a mask or wear your mask. I'm not sure the saying. But it kind of irritated my husband and I because being new parents coming into this district, we were told at the last board meeting that you will not put up with any type of form of bullying in this school. For me, my son's in kindergarten. He can't read it, but he can see the picture of the panther wearing the mask. Any child who is being raised in a family saying that children need to be wearing a mask and everyone needs to wear one, those children now are being provoked to now possibly bully another child that's not wearing them. That doesn't sit well with me. See, we want to teach kindness and respect, and I feel that as leaders in the community, we need to start being leaders and allowing people to have that choice. So I, from the bottom of my heart, am asking to take those signs down. I don't feel that any child should be walking in a hallway and saying, well, that panther is saying that we should be wearing a mask. Why aren't you wearing one? That's a form of bullying. So I ask you to take them down. I also ask for anybody that wants their child to wear a mask to stop making it a big deal when other children don't. Stop with the segregation. Let's focus on the education. Let's focus on raising them with kindness and unity. And stop
That's your 4 minutes.
with the segregation.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Yep. Trish? Is there a Trish out there anywhere? You don't want to speak? Okay. Jamie Lang?
Good evening. Jamie Ling, 3501 Burnett Drive, Murraysville. I'm not here to talk about mandating masking, although I oppose it, because that is the topic of the wagging tail of the dog. I'm here to talk about the dog. I'm here to address two compelling parental concerns. One, the PA Department of Health is establishing COVID-19 vaccination clinics at K-12 schools and is directing vaccine providers to help. Two, PA Departments of Health and Ed announced it is providing free, of course nothing is free because we're paying for it, COVID-19 testing in K-12 schools. On August 16th, this order became effective. These clinics can be held in our schools. Per the Health and Safety Plan summary by the Franklin Regional School Board under letter G, it states that, when possible, the district will continue to partner with federal, state, local, and healthcare agencies regarding opportunities to receive COVID-19 vaccination. We, the parents, oppose vaccine clinics in our schools. Currently, children under the age of 18 must have parental consent for vaccination. Parents and school board members, and please note that at this moment, Senator Cappelletti is seeking support for a bill that would let teenagers 14 and older, that's freshmen and up, get vaccines without parental consent or knowledge. This bill, if passed, would completely circumvent a parent's God-given authority to raise and protect their children. God gave my children to me, not to the state. This bill could pass through both legislatures by the end of the year. So looking forward, what starts out as an optional clinic for parents to take their children to has the potential to become a place where adolescents, possibly under the duress of peer pressure, may submit to a medical procedure without their parents' knowledge. Cappelletti served as Director of Policy for Planned Parenthood and holds a master's in public health. This is not a degree in immunology, epidemiology, virology, or even biology. Be careful who your public officials are that are designating policies for you. The NIH's research on peer pressure noted that a youth's susceptibility peaked at the age of 14, and peer pressure primes adolescents to modify their behavior to fit in because they care more about what their friends think of them. Cappelletti stated, 14 is not too young. We underestimate the maturity and intelligence of young people. The same age, the NIH says susceptibility to peer pressure is peaking. School usage for a vaccine clinic for the general public is a smokescreen for the potential targeting of our children through peer pressure and procured policy. This sets a horrible precedent. What clinics will be next? Will Planned Parenthood be able to set up clinics in our schools if it is in cooperation with the Department of Health or a governmental order? I have received calls from band and various sports parents informing me that their children have been told, lie to your parents, I'll take you to Giant Eagle to get a vaccine. And we don't want you on our team if you're not vaxxed. This is vaccine marginalizing. This bullying must not be tolerated, and parents will be demanding severe consequences for it. We must honor conscientious religious objectors as well as doctors and scientists questioning the ingredients or technology. We must honor the success of effective treatments that have saved lives and are proven prophylactics and therapeutics. We must honor a parent's right to choose what is in their child's best interest. Scientific method. Hypothesize, experiment with test and control group, observe, collect, and analyze data, conclude. Why does the government want everyone in the test group? How do you collect data or analyze it when you have no control group? Ask yourself, why bring vaccination services into schools? Who is being targeted? There is no shortage of vaccine. The vaccine is available to those who want it from medical providers in medical buildings. Parents believe our school buildings should be for education, not vaccination. Now I'd like to discuss the in-classroom PCR testing.
4 minutes are up.
Would anybody yield their time to me?
You are Sue Engelfritz, correct.
Susan Algin Fritz, 3440 Mayor Drive, Murraysville. I wish to yield my 4 minutes to Jamie Lang.
Yeah, I don't think we're not allowed to do that. You can't pass time on.
Okay.
Sorry.
You want to read this for me then? Okay. And let them know I have a BSc with a specialization in genetics.
Okay, Susan, you're up.
Okay, thank you for this opportunity. I'm here to discuss the in-classroom PCR testing. Though the whole world relies on the RT-PCR to diagnose the SARS-CoV-2 infection, the science is clear. They are not fit for this purpose. The intended use of the PCR was, and still is, to apply its manufacturing technique, being able to replicate DNA sequencing millions and billions of times, and not as a diagnostic tool to detect viruses. PCR tests used to identify so-called COVID-19 patients presumably infected by what is called SARS-CoV-2 do not have a valid gold standard to compare them with. A recent extensive review concluded that studies to isolate and culture SARS-CoV-2 were of poor quality and lacked assessments against acceptable gold standards. Kerry Mullis, the inventor of the PCR technology, was quite adamant that the PCR viral load test does not detect free infectious viruses, but rather identify genetic sequences of viruses. Recently, Bullard emphasized that conclusion by stating, RT-PCR detects RNA, not infectious viruses. It's not the whole virus that is being amplified, but it's the genetic sequence which, without the protein code, are not infectious. Therefore, it is the mistake to infer that the test identifies whole infectious virus. In addition, the test assumes that the small gene segments are unique to SARS-CoV-2. However, since no acceptable viral isolations are available to confirm this relationship, the assumption is highly questionable. The RNA sequences that are being amplified by surrogate DNA could be sources other than SARS-CoV-2. The failure to satisfy its culture-modified viral postulates and the inability to satisfactorily isolate SARS-CoV-2 should cast doubts in the efficiency of any test that purports to identify the causative agent of COVID-19. My first argument against testing is the tests, especially in a polling method, as they are proposed to be done and are not accurate. This will lead to false positives and false quarantining of our family and our children. Although parents are supposed to opt in, I refer back to Jamie Ling's statements about peer pressure on adults and our children. I firsthand have witnessed this, and it saddens me. So where do we draw the line? Fact, from COVID, there have been 130 deaths in ages 0 to 4 years and 296 from ages 5 to 18. Here are many areas where the death rate in our children is much greater. In the underage youth, the CDC reports alcohol abuse leads to more than 4,300 deaths annually. In 2019, drug overdoses in our youth totaled over 4,700,000. Why aren't we instituting daily drug testing? I would suggest that it may be more pertinent to administer opt-in, non-invasive alcohol and drug testing since there is more deadly epidemic among our children. The Kaiser Foundation states that nearly 50% of adolescents between the ages of 12 to 18 feel pressure into having sex in relationships. Teens are infected by 4 million STDs every year. Why aren't we testing all students who share bathrooms and locker rooms in the schools? Perhaps STDs should be tested for weekly on an opt-in basis, of course. After all, herpes, hepatitis C, gonorrhea, genital warts, chlamydia, and HPV are all serious, contagious, and transmittable, and at least the inconvenience and all the most lethal. So where do we draw the line? Listen, I don't actually think this test should be done.
4 minutes.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Matthew Oslowski.
All right, you got to learn how to pronounce that name.
Okay, you got it.
And I'm going to say this. I told you this last time I was here out in the hallway there. Every time I see your name, I get really thirsty. Sorry, we got to have a little fun. We got to have.
That's all right.
Have some laughter, right?
Thank you.
So, on behalf of my wife and a lot of friends that I have here, some great conversations that I've had with family, with friends, people that are on the same side, people that aren't. You guys have a tough job, and I realize that, and I appreciate that. I personally don't want to be in that position, So I thank you for all the work that you're doing. I'm going to draw on a couple of things, if it's all right. And you can sense the tension in the room as a society, as a community, as this country has lost our sense of respect, love, compassion. We lost the trust of prayer. Completely gone. Nobody counts on it. We pulled our families apart. This is the most critical thing we're doing. It's pulling our families apart, and it can be solved at home. I'm thankful, Dr. Priano, for the years that Larry and I ran All Pro Dads with the emphasis on focusing on parenthood, child and parent relationship, teaching those children how to build relationships with their parents, mothers, fathers, grandparents, siblings. We have to give the children that avenue where they know they're going to have a solid answer and how to navigate their life and their decisions. I was reflecting on that this past weekend. I've had 3 kids graduate this school. It's been a tremendous experience. I have a 4th one now graduating high school this year. I was up at Northmoreland Park. Maybe it's not important, but I was at Northmoreland Park. 3 of the kids are gone at school. I was reflecting on how our society has changed, how it's changed me as a father, my wife as a mother, husband and wives. Times when my kids were little, I take them out fishing. We have laughs. We enjoy ourselves together. We took friends with us. We've got to get back to the basic principles that families are the most important thing in this world to us. And we're not there. And we need to go back to that soon. Everybody's got opinions here, and everybody's got to be respectful of these opinions, including me and everybody on this board. I've never, ever seen people and companies and organizations be so polarized and have such hate. It's disgusting. We need to change that. And this leadership needs to stand up and say, we've got to change. This community's been fantastic. Let's continue to do that. We're being identified by political ideologies. You're an anti-masker or an anti-vaccine person. We're separating people. We fought against this in this country years ago. I've seen schools, other schools and organizations that want to put vaccine people here and non-vaccine people over there. That's segregation. We fought against that. We must stop it. We cannot allow it. We have friends and coworkers and families being pulled apart over the past 18 months. There's no sense of tolerance or understanding of people's positions. We need to refocus and educate our children that family is first. That's where they get their guidance and their principles and their directions in life, not the government. Take the government out of our lives.
That's 4 minutes.
Already? Holy
Yes.
cow.
Thank you. Chuck? Chadwick, is it Chuck Chadwick? Okay.
Hello. My name's Chuck. I live at 3519 Ivy Drive. I had a whole spiel here, but everyone else already said all that. So I want to thank you guys for making it optional, the masks, for making the mask optional. I have 5 kids in the district, and one of them likes to wear the mask. You know, I was thinking COVID poses almost no risk to our kids at all. There's 4.2 million that have had it. 0.008 have died, percent of it have died. Not that any deaths are good. I'm not saying that. 0.004%, 0.0004% of the child's population has died from COVID. Twice as many children have died from drowning. In the 2018-2019 flu season, the CDC reported that 480 children have died from the flu. That's more than have died from COVID in a year and a half. Did the kids have to wear masks that year at school? If not, why not? The flu is more dangerous to kids than COVID, and that's a fact. There's a name for forcing our children to wear masks for a virus that poses almost no threat to them, and it's called child abuse. Allow me to list some of the things, psychological damage we do to our children by forcing them to cover their faces. Increased feelings of isolation. They are damaging to language development. They hamper speech and communication. They are unsanitary, providing a warm, moist environment for bacteria to grow. They cause more CO2 and less oxygen to enter the body. They aren't good for emotional development, especially in younger children, because they need to see faces to help develop their own speech, emotions, and so on. Not to mention the wide range of effects masks have on special needs children. We tell them the air is toxic, that everyone around them is sick. Masks keep them from seeing each other's faces, and they need to do that. I'm going to stop. That's about it. I appreciate it. Thank you, guys.
Thank you. Joe Bertucci.
Evening. My name's Joe Bertucci. I live at 502 Holly Court in Murraysville. Again, I don't have a prepared speech because I knew that by the time I stood up, everyone would have said everything that we want to say, every fact and fiction. But I do want to say thank you because I think it's important that you hear from individuals like myself who normally don't take the time to come to school board meetings. So it's actually kind of sad that I have to do that for this particular topic. I don't think it should be the school board. You represent the individuals of Franklin Regional. And if I look around, we have mask wearers and we have non-mask wearers. So I think you've done your job in representing us, is how I see it. So if we're looking at this from a perspective of how should you vote or maybe you re-vote, I think you've done your job and you've done it very well. And so I want to thank you for that. I do have 3 children in the school district. And again, it's sad that I'm talking to my daughter who says, Daddy, if they make me wear a mask, I don't want to go back to school. But I miss my friends and I want to see them. There's other stories on the other side of that. And so that's why I say, again, thank you for representing everyone who has a sad story on either side. Because that's what you're here for, is to represent us. We put you here in this position to represent all of us, not some of us. And that's very difficult to do, to keep everyone happy, and it's actually, quite frankly, impossible. So again, I want to say thank you, and that's it. So I appreciate it. Hopefully, in the future, we can have this kind of turnout, maybe talking about policies for the schools or what our children are learning, and maybe something that is actually your focal point, and which not be the mini CDC up here. So I hope that this kind of turnout and passion would be for our kids on what they're learning. We've got a great foundation now in this school building, so we've got a great baseline to be able to teach our kids like never before. So what can we talk about other than masks and whatever political view you have? Let's talk about what you're teaching my children, how you prepare them for college, and how they can be individual thinkers. That's what we should be talking about. But thank you again, and I'm just another voice in the community to say thank you. I see what you're voting on. I'm paying attention. I might not always come, but I'm paying attention, and thank you.
Thank you, Joe. Eric.
Hi, my name is Eric Rector. I'm a resident of Murraysville for the last 22 years. My daughter, Raquel and Kayla, went from kindergarten to 12th grade. They're now Penn State graduates and happily married, and one's living here in Murraysville. I have 2 sons. They're in 6th and 7th grade. And I told my wife this year, if the boys are going to wear masks at school, I will definitely unequivocally pull them out of school. They will not wear a mask anymore. I kind of just went along to get along last year, but there was one speaker here, this gentleman. You know, we should all love each other, try to get along. But when you have people on the other side, it's hard for me to be calm and be nice. It just is, because of the things I hear them saying. We could speak about masks, but as some of us know, the plan is this big, okay? It's all CDC. If everybody had a gun put to their head in this room and said, if you lie, you get the trigger pulled, your brains get exploded. Do you think the CDC has lied about COVID deaths, COVID tests, COVID cases? Have the numbers been skewed, lied, twisted, manipulated? Do you think yes or no? And answer that intellectually honest. I think everybody in the room says, yeah, of course. I know someone, a nurse, that was fired or wanted to be fired because she wouldn't sign off on COVID deaths because they only get $6,000 for a heart attack, but they get $36,000 for a COVID death. Most of it is BS, okay? I had a nice letter. I'm completely off the rails, obviously. That's what I always do, okay? The collateral damage of this thing has been 1,000 times worse. A progressive liberal will say, oh, you're mean, you don't care about people. Someone's going to get sick and die. No, you don't care. Depression, overdose, child abuse, domestic violence, all of them are up. Murder, all because of this. So you are the one that doesn't care about people, okay? So, again, doctors are getting censored. There's world-renowned virologists, and they speak on this and say everything's upside down. The science is a lie. For instance, this doctor back here with the mask growing out the front of his face, he has a 50-cent mask on. My friend who was in the military, Military Operations Protection Protocol, MOP, he says you have to spend about $8,000 on a mask that will actually keep a virus out. So it's all theater. It's a waste. They don't work. They don't work. I don't want my kid muzzled. I do not want my kid muzzled, and I thank God and I appreciate you guys voting that we don't have to, so my kids could go to school this year. The psychological damage, you can't hear them talk, you can't hear the teachers, you can't, phonics humanity like this guy said. It's disgusting. It's beyond, like I said, I'm so for, mask have not, I'll run my time out, tell me when my time's up. Masking has not been proven effective, does produce many short and long-term detrimental effects, diminishing learning, increasing fear and phobias. A parent to scare their own children, that's sick. That is sick. My kids aren't afraid because we tell them not to be afraid. Where does fear come from? The devil. Where does fear come from? Their parents are telling them, oh my God, Joe, it's scary. You're scaring your kids. What kind of sick parent would do that? Masks don't work. They're a joke. The kids, don't muzzle the kids. If one kid died in the whole country, it would be on a CNN reel, right? Don Lemon and what's the other guy? Every second. A kid died. Oh, my God, the world's ended. We need to shut all the schools down.
You're 4 minutes are up.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Carol Kraus.
Carol Kraus, 3627 Logan Ferry Road. So I feel a little bit uncomfortable coming up here after all that, but I'd still like to share my point of view. So I can definitely see how everyone's so divided, and I just want to share one simple thing. My daughter's not afraid. She wears a mask out of respect for doing the multi-layered things that we can do for society. And so with that, I want to share a personal story to showcase what I mean. I personally have worked for an airline for over 30 years. And if we all remember September 11th, I can only say it affected me immensely. I was part of a team that had to act quickly to keep our customers safe. TSA didn't exist for weeks. So we had to come together and decide layers of security to ensure that our aircraft could not be used as a weapon again. We didn't just do one thing. We adopted several different protocols and tireless hours of work. We didn't allow the customers to decide our action plan. We made the action plan. We later worked with TSA to build the strongest multi-layered approach we could have. We had to be fluid and change when needed. When someone attempted a new attack, we pivoted and adjusted to a new need from TSA, and we supported any layer that we needed to keep people safe. These people were strangers to us working for an airline. Our children are our community, and yet we're not willing to do whatever it takes to keep them safe. I'm using this example to just show how strategic and persistent we must be to avoid an enemy. That enemy now is a virus. Let me share some numbers with you, since it seems that's what we like to do. So approximately 3,000 people during attacks during a 9/11 lost their life. 625,000 plus people have lost their lives due to COVID. In Pennsylvania alone, the number is currently 28,000. That's much higher than the 3,000. I personally didn't know anyone that died when the towers came down, but my heart aches terribly over the loss of a friend I had from COVID. She was 2 weeks from getting her vaccine. And I actually was not a pro-vaxxer. I had a delayed schedule for my daughter. So for me, the choice to get vaccinated, which I am, I'm wearing this just to say I'm doing it for others, was because I lost my friend. So now we have a school, ages, where my daughter is 9, 10 years old, grades 3 to 5. They can't get vaccinated. I don't even have that choice. And you won't add the layer of a mask. Airplanes have been made to fly safely from terrorism and COVID, and you aren't willing to do the same with our school. It takes layers to keep our country safe from terrorism, and it will take layers with this virus. So what I'm asking for is that you think about the different layers that we can use. It's not comfortable. I don't enjoy sanitizing my hands when I get in the car. I don't do that out of fear. I just do that because I think it's the right thing to do. I don't enjoy wearing a mask. And what I've explained to my child is we're doing this because we want to keep those that are vulnerable safe. It's our part of community. It's just one step to help community. And so you have the difficult decisions to make. Today in the news, I saw that, yes, the state is siding with the CDC, but they are doing that because it's just a layer that they can choose. So you can act now to keep our kids in school and wear a mask so we don't have an outbreak in this district, so you don't have to shut down. What will that do to the mental minds of our children that they have to go through? Won't that create fear? Instead of something they're already used to, where they put on a mask, and at least for my child, she knows it's just what she does for right now. It's not forever, and it's not scary.
Okay, your 4 minutes,
It's just
sir.
a layer.
Thank you. Okay, Chris Kearns. Is Chris Kearns still here? Okay,
Sorry, I kind of fell asleep there.
that's okay.
I think I might be last on the list. Is that
You
correct?
are last on the list.
All right, I got a big responsibility here. First of all, thank you for making the decision that you made to keep masks optional, and I would like to give them a round of applause for making that decision. It takes courage to do something like that in the face of something with so much political background behind it, and this is more politically infused than anything I've ever seen. It's absurd. First, I have 3 kids in a district. They hate wearing masks. But I'm not going to get into anything that anyone else has already said up here, but to say you guys were elected by the constituents of this municipality to represent us as a whole, to represent the majority. And if you look around the room, I think it's clear what that majority is. I hope the mask mandate isn't brought back. I hope it's not considered. I think the idea of these vaccine stations, I don't even know why it's called a vaccine because it doesn't prevent the disease anyways. But I think the idea of the school getting involved in a medical situation with their children and putting yourselves in that position and that liability is absurd. It's unthinkable. So that's my 2 cents. Thank you again for making the decision you have and having the courage to do it. And I just ask you would continue to make those types of decisions to represent the community. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, that's it for citizen comments. Solicitor comments. Do you have any comments tonight?
Thank you, Mr. Yingling. Yes, I do. I'm sure that the board appreciates everybody's comments on both sides. However, we must follow certain rules and guidelines in accordance with how we conduct our meetings. We've had a long, lengthy discussion about the ever-changing law in the back in executive session. Such a issue as this, as we can see, is tremendously important to so many people. We will not be looking at our vote that we already took until it is on the agenda. If we would decide to reconsider, everyone here will be properly notified. You'll be able to see that we're going to deal with that. You'll be able to come, and we'll be happy to hear you on both sides of the issue again before this board would make that decision. So at this time, unless it's on the agenda, we are not going to surprise parents by voting on something that they didn't have notice on. So at this point in time, we are not going to bring that up under new business unless it is on the agenda and properly notify our parents and they can come and be heard. So that's for various reasons that we discussed in executive session, the ever-changing law. There was a case that came down today. The law is changing in September as to the open records requirements. And so you will be notified if the board decides to take this issue up again.
Thank you. Okay, we have 6 consent agenda items tonight. The latest one is Allison Wills. She's I'm sorry. She's the new HR director. Dallas, you want to stand up? This is Allison Wills, our new HR director. Thank you, Allison. Okay, items to be removed from the consent agenda for separate action by members of the board. Anybody have any consent agenda items to be removed? Hearing none, we have 5 consent agenda items. 1 through 6, and I'd like to have a motion to approve the 6 consent agenda items.
So moved.
Second, Shiner.
Motion was made by
Nevin.
Nevin.
Shiner. Second.
And Paul. Okay, any other comments? Hearing none, all in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries 8-0. All right, I need a motion to wait a minute, what is it? Should we meet in executive?
Yeah.
Okay, we're going to go back into exec session after this, but the meeting is, I need a motion to adjourn.
So moved, Shiner.
Second, moderator.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries 8-0. Thank you, everybody, for coming tonight, and I appreciate your input. Thank you very much. This meeting is over.